And welcome to the first Matchday -2 of 2020. We'll be looking ahead to the FA Cup clash with Wigan tomorrow, but before we do all of that, we'll look back at what was a busy and mostly successful festive period.
Switching the play back to this near side and back to Riyad Mahrez, and he's running at Chilwell and goes past the edge of the area. Mahrez, the question is, will Schmeichel be in midweek form? He's not. It's put perfectly into the bottom corner. De Bruyne inside right, coming forward and threatening and going past Sayuncu, and De Bruyne across the face of the goal and touched in from close range. Liverpool keep on swinging the ball in there, goes back in again, and this time it's in from the left of Firmino. Liverpool have the lead. Milner stepping up now against Schmeichel, and it's straight down the middle, and Liverpool lead this by 2-0. Milner, edge of the penalty area, rolls it right here, Alexander-Arnold, low ball into the box, Firmino, chance for 3-0, he's put it into the top corner, and that is surely game over now. Inside, Alexander-Arnold goes for goal! Oh, it's a beauty for number 4. Bryson swings one in from the left-hand side, just a bit too deep. Masuaku's nodding it down, though, still have a chance for Leicester, fighting towards the far post, back inside, it's in! Leicester City have scored! Inacho is taken down, but Isaac Perez is away, driving through the centre, he's still got men to beat, he's slipped it forward into the area, real chance for another goal, it's into the net, and Leicester City have the lead for a second time to Mari Gray. What a finish that is from the Leicester City white man. Given away terribly by Newcastle to Perez inside the box, gets beyond one and scores! Newcastle giving it away again, and here's Maddison left footed on the edge of the box! It's an absolute screamer! Oh my word! James Maddison! Forward to Perez, now to Mari Gray. Sticks beyond the couple inside the box, rolls it back to Ndidi. Now Hamza Chowdhury shoots! Oh, it's another wonder goal! Hamza Chowdhury spectacularly makes it 3. It's a golden start to the new year and the new decade for Leicester City.
Yes, 2 wins from 4 for Leicester City in the Premier League over the festive break, and we've got 2 former City defenders sat on the sofa with me this afternoon. Of course, it's Matt Elliott and Gerry Taggart. Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year, Daniel.
Did you have a good one?
Yeah.
No.
No? Very quiet.
I made up for yours then.
Yes.
I
would do.
I didn't get any raises though. I'm disappointed. I was banking on that, but
neither did I.
Sort myself out.
So,
but yeah, no, very good.
Good. So 2 wins from a possible 4 then, 6 points from 12 over the festive break. I said a fairly successful one, would you agree?
You said mostly
successful.
Yeah, I said sort of I'll beg to differ, but not to any harsh degree. I just think, 2 wins, 2 losses for Leicester City overall, that's not the level that they're accustomed to. Certainly this season, but you've got to take into consideration the opposition, as you countered me with off air. So, and that's a very fair point, isn't it? I just think you said to me like 6 points out of 12. Would you have taken that before? And Gerry nodded in agreement with me.
Don't throw me under the bus.
No, you're coming with me, son. You're coming with me. No, but it was like, I thought about it. I was like, well, no, not really, because how good and well that Leicester have been performing. I thought the potential was there to go and get, I said before the Liverpool or the Man City and Liverpool game, it's targeting 4 points out of that. They were hoping, they weren't expecting it, but they were hoping that they could compete more evenly than they did. They came up short, really, in truth, against 2 magnificent sides, Liverpool in particular. But then to respond and get the 6 out of 6 takes some effort, especially considering the circumstances with the personnel, etc. So all in all, it's worked out well, hasn't it? Well, they're
Mostly successful.
14 points clear of 5th place. That's your main prerogative, I would imagine. That anything else on top of achieving Champions League qualification is a bonus. But all things considered, things have worked out well.
Yeah, Gerry, after that Liverpool game, well, the two of you were sat in the LCFC radio studio, and there was a little bit of doom and gloom, wasn't there, from fans after that result? And naturally so after a 4-0 defeat at home. But you were saying you've got to look and take the perspective from it and then judge maybe after these two games against West Ham and against Newcastle. And the way Leicester responded was absolutely brilliant,
I think
it?
that's the most important point to be made here, is after the two games that they lost, back-to-back games against Man City and Liverpool that they lost, is the way they bounced back. And in particular, with Matt's mentioned that the amount of changes that were made for the West Ham game. And so that'll be the most pleasing thing for Brendan Rodgers. I think probably a minimum points tally you would be looking at is probably 8, and maximum, as Matt said, probably 8. So a minimum of 8 points from them 4 games, and then you're looking to take a maximum of 4 from those 2 games against Man City and Liverpool, considering the form that the club have been on. But the realisation of the gap between those 2 teams and the rest of the league sort of shone through. And even Man City, who have their problems, but on their day, are still a top-class team. Liverpool are obviously streaks ahead still of everybody else, but that's where the perspective comes into it. You have to be realistic on Jurgen Klopp, the amount of time he's had at Liverpool, the amount of windows he's had, and take that into consideration when you're judging Brendan Rodgers and the amount of time that he's been here.
And then the West Ham game, Matt, when you saw the amount of changes, what did you initially think? But then at full time, there was such a feeling of happiness, wasn't there, among the Leicester fans and among all of us working here and everyone following Leicester, because it was a brilliant win because of the changes that were made as well.
Yeah, and well deserved as well, wasn't it? As was the Newcastle. We'll come on to that in a minute. But I think, if I'm honest, initially when I heard the whole rack of changes that were occurring, I thought, hang on a minute, it's maybe gone a little bit step too far, possibly. But then it transpired there were certain reasons why certain individuals were missing. Ricardo, Jamie Vardy, of course, with the birth of his baby daughter, and I think it was Pratt wasn't involved as well, was he? And I'm not quite sure what the reason is for that, but is that an injury as well? But so you looked at it and thought, and then the more you considered it, it seemed a bit drastic to start with, but then you looked at it and you thought, well, do you know what, it makes sense, because there are going to be tired bodies. I'd spoken about it before, and we had on the show about people saying, it's a difficult time of year with all the fixture overload, etc. But for me, that was the fixture that was probably going to cause most problems, irrespective of the opposition on the 28th. 26th to 28th, after a flurry of games before that.
Less than 48 hours.
It's going to be a problem. So you look at it, you think, do you know what? All of a sudden, you developed a little bit more faith in the decision. And thought, Andy knows his players better than anyone. He knows the condition of them, etc. And more and more it made sense. And then once the game started, any fears you did have were out the window, weren't they? Because they started in real confident fashion, and but for a couple of phases of the game were comfortably the better side throughout and deserved to win it by more.
Yeah, the worries were quickly dispelled, Gerry, weren't we? One of those changes that came in, Kelechi Iheanacho on the score sheet again for Leicester. Yeah,
and he's shown glimpses, hasn't he, in recent times, Kelechi, that he has improved. He looks hungrier. The way he plays a game is a bit more up-tempo than we've been used to seeing probably in the past. And he gets his reward here, a proper centre-forwards goal. He looks to go and chase that ball that's going out of play. Realises that Perez is round the back, and he gets himself into a good position for the ball that's headed back. So, that's one that Tony Cuddy would have been proud of, because of having the sense to get himself into a good position rather than try and chase the ball down and stop it from going out of play.
We'll talk more about Jose Perez a little bit later on in Matchday Managed to. Obviously, fantastic work from him to create that goal. He then created the second one as well, Matt, which we'll see in just a moment. The Demarai Gray one that turned out to be the winner, of course. How important was this moment in the second half?
Well, vital, obviously, it contributed to, the winner, didn't it? But broken up there. Good pressure from Albrighton and Chowdhury, but there's the ball from Chowdhury. That was the ball that set them in motion. Diop there trying to get himself a double booking in quick succession, but couldn't achieve either. But yeah, lovely way to pass, good awareness, shocking defending from West Ham. Sanchez, I know he's not a natural defender, but if you're going to be back there, you might as well make some sort of effort. But Demarai Gray couldn't believe his eyes probably. He makes those runs numerous times in games, and the fullback ordinarily will track it, but Sanchez couldn't do so. Opened up for him, nice little timing of the pass, way at the pass. Finish was decent. Goalkeeper not sure what he was doing, but a very welcome reward for Leicester's efforts on the day, and nothing less than they deserve, really.
A word on Demarai Gray, Gerry, because obviously he'd missed the penalty earlier in the game, but he showed great character, didn't he, to come back in that second half?
Yeah, again, he's another player, there's been question marks over Demarai, but again, he showed that he's maturing, and in recent performances, he's, albeit coming off the bench, he's been, contributing in a really positive way, creating, scoring, and there, again, we've seen, the timing of the run there. We talked about the weight of the pass, which is obviously very, very important. But if you watch Demarai's run, it's a perfectly timed run. The pass sets up his first touch. The first touch is true. That sets up the second touch, which is obviously the shot. And he tucks it away beautifully. So, a real big confidence boost for Demarai after missing the penalty. But you've got to say that's down to himself. As you heard in the post-match press conference, he just got his head down and kept working hard for the team, and that's a great attribute. And
then obviously, before we take a quick break, Matt, just say that how difficult is the festive period as players like yourself? It's due to get busier as well for Leicester City. There's going to be 3 games in a week coming up this week, but how much is the toll on both mentally and physically on your bodies?
Yeah, I think probably more physical, I would say. I don't know, Gerry might disagree, but I think the players are very professional these days, and they are focused, and it's drilled into them, isn't it? Even more so maybe than back in our day. I think physically they're also better prepared, and they are able to cope with it. But they've also got the capabilities, because of the squad. Now, again, not always harping back to our day, but if you're comparing different times, we had a squad of, I think it was like 18 tags, wasn't it? And 3 or 4 of them were never really considered genuine starters. So you did have a threadbare squad. You had to make do. Put it this way, without being disrespectful to some of our ex-teammates, some of them weren't of the required standard at that time in their career, but they were part of the mainstream squad. These days, the vast majority, if not all, of the Premier League squad are, certainly in Leicester's case, ready-made starters. They've got a genuine case to be playing at any given time in the Premier League. So that's a massive benefit, and I think it's been well managed by Brendan Rodgers. In terms of hardship and discipline and sacrifices, the players won't mind at all. They didn't look too grumpy and gloomy, did they? On New Year's Day, they were quite happy having a quiet night in, I'm sure. But it's part of being a professional footballer. It's a very, very small price to pay for all the good things that come your way during your career, especially at a club like Leicester.
You mentioned that New Year's Day game at Newcastle. We'll look at that in just a short moment's time. We'll also hear from Hamza Chowdhury and preview the visit of Wigan in the FA Cup here on Saturday.
are an instinct that ignites action. We are a journey, taking one step more. And we are the heart that beats as one. We are proud to be more. De Montfort University, Leicester.
Welcome back to Matchday -2 here on LCFC TV, Facebook and Twitter with me, Dan Bates, Matt Elliott and Gerry Taggart. Still to come, we'll hear from Hamza Chowdhury and look ahead to the Wigan visit here at King Power Stadium. But first, we've got to look back at New Year's Day and that brilliant win, Gerry, up at Newcastle. You were there, of course, co-commentator for LCFC Radio, and such a dominant away performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, frightening really. From minute one, you have to say, it was a really good performance, slick passing performance as well. And it seemed at times that, Steve Bruce came out and said that they were a team that were going to sit back and play on the counter-attack, but, I think we only ever seen that once with Joe Linton, getting himself in behind the defence for the whole of that first half. It was such a complete footballing performance from Leicester City, especially in the first half. Obviously things changed in the second, but that first half performance for me was exceptional.
How have you ever seen an away performance like that? I mean, obviously the Southampton was 9-0, wasn't there? But Southampton did have a couple of chances in that in the first half, and they were down to 10 men through the red card. I know Newcastle were in the second half, but one as utterly dominant as that from Leicester City, I don't think I can remember one.
No, exactly. It seems strange to compare it to that 9-0 at Southampton, but in some ways it was even more convincing, if that's possible, because that's the bizarre thing about it, really, as well, is like the scoreline as it was 2-0. That was game over, effectively, and Steve Bruce basically admitted that at half time. I know that there were circumstances around that with the injuries, and I do have sympathy to an extent, but it was almost like they'd realised, resigned themselves. He's not too good. There's no point trying to get back into it too much, because it's not going to happen. And if we do expose ourselves, they'll really take us to the cleaners. But which is a great accolade, really, and credit to Leicester, really. But it was bizarre, though. Bizarre, really. At 2-0 to basically concede defeat, and how much Leicester were in control, and even just before Hamza scored, there was a 10-15 minute period. It was just Soyuncu, Morgan, Fuchs, and just basically not even keep ball. They were just passing to each other. And part of you thought, actually, come on, Leicester, you might as well go and try and improve the old goal scoring ranks, because they were never going to, Newcastle were never going to hurt Leicester, were they? But it was strange, but to see. But it's also a huge positive, really, for a side to be that dominant. Suggests how good a team Leicester are. It's like and there'd been a little bit of reputation damaged or tarnished maybe in the Man City Liverpool games, but that Leicester are behind them, but maybe not as far behind as people think. To be dominant like that in a Premier League game, that's the point I'm trying to say, and to win 9-0 in a Premier League game. Average teams don't do that. I've said that about 5 times this season, but average teams don't dominate like they did, whatever the circumstances, like they did on New Year's Day, and it was a good sign.
Yeah, Gerry, they did dominate, but they had to score, they had to get ahead. They did that through Jose Perez fairly early on. It was the closing down. It may have been a Newcastle mistake, but it was all due to the pressing and the closing down again.
Yeah, I don't think the centre half for Newcastle will want to see this again, but you've got to give Perez credit. What he did, he got himself in a good position initially, and he sort of invited that pass.
Yeah, clever.
And as soon as he seen the pass coming across the pitch, he's straight on there. So all the credit has to go to Jose Perez, without a shadow of a doubt.
Kelechi's not exactly tearing down on Lejeune, there is it.
And this was a penalty anyway. So he's done really well to get the shot off. And yes, it's a slight deflection, but it's basically all down to the clever play of Jose Perez. And sometimes that's what you get for all your hard work, is you get yourself on the score sheet. So that's a really pleasing moment for him against his old club.
And sometimes that's a good example of it in terms of the press, You don't have to go as a whole unit and stop. Sometimes it is to your advantage. Maybe you'll force a goal kick and then you want to win the aerial battle and pick up the pieces. But then other times, like Gerry says, you set traps or whatever. You invite that pass. You look like you're disinterested, but really you know what's going on. And Perez has shown a lot of nous there and got his reward.
If that was a fairly individualistic goal from Perez, then Gerry, the second one equally so, but for different reasons from James.
He's claiming an assist though, Perez, isn't he, for this?
Again, this is another one from the same defender from Newcastle. Absolute diabolical clearance. And the ball's just recycled again. We talked about that slick play. Leicester pick it up, recycle it. See that James Maddison's got absolute acres of space. He actually turned one down inside the box on his left foot about 5-10 minutes earlier. But there's no way he was turning this one down. Yes, it's on his weaker left foot, as you would say, but he absolutely rifles that into the top corner. That is sheer quality.
Had one in the second half as well, didn't he? That stretched Dubravka. But I mean, that is not the strike of a weaker foot.
No,
is it? It's just
absolutely not. And I use that loose term. I use that term loosely, should I say? His weaker left foot. As I said, he turned one down earlier inside the box where he could have shot with his left foot, and he tried to check back onto his right foot and got sort of closed down, and it didn't quite happen. But this time he just showed the quality he has, James Maddison.
A great away day became an even better away day, didn't it? Just before the end, Hamza Chowdhury scoring his first Leicester City goal, and what a way to...
Go on, Hamza. I know, unexpected and out of the blue, but there's Perez again.
Great skill.
Involved, beautiful awareness and nice body movement, wasn't it? And picking up good positions, and out to Damari Gray. Well done to Damari. Didn't get too rushed, didn't get too hurried. He wants to make an impression, wants to be involved in the goals, maybe a strike himself, but picked out the right option. Wilfred Ndidi, nice little deft touch as well. That was a better goal than you at first realise. I mean, the finish takes away from the build-up initially, doesn't it? Because you're almost in semi-shock. I think Hamza was himself, but and at the time I thought, Hamza, no, there's your chance, because he muffed one, didn't he, against West Ham when he did ever so well to get in a position and got caught in two minds, and I thought he'd done the same again. When I initially saw him sizing it up, opening his foot up, I'm thinking, Hamza, that's the wrong option, mate. Just strike through. But
everything was set up beautifully for Hamza, just to side foot that ball. The skill and the art in it is making sure that that you get the right amount of curl, bend in it, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it was a weird one though, Tags, wasn't it? I thought it was set up to strike, especially Hamza's not renowned one who's going to bend one too often or whatever. But he's almost side-footed it. There wasn't a lot of curl on it. A lot of ones when you whip it around the far post and the keeper's clutching thin air, but it's just gone straight. He's just got it like absolute inch perfect precision, wasn't it?
Perfect strike, and you saw the reaction as well at full time from all the players, and even when he'd scored as well, the celebrations that everyone in that Leicester group was so pleased with him, weren't they?
I think he's one of the players. You could name 3-4 players that could find themselves very unlucky not to be starting week in, week out, or if not week in, week out, at least get more game time. And Hamza's one of those. So that's why I think everybody's pleased for him, because he's come on. He always does a job. He always, contributes to the team in a positive fashion. And then on the back end of that, he gets himself a goal. And what a goal, what a finish, so well deserved, because he's probably one of the hardest working players there.
Yeah, Brendan Rodgers likes him, doesn't he? He knows what Hamza Chowdhury can bring now and in the future. He signed a new contract, didn't he? Is it 5 year, 4 or 5 year? Anyway, lengthy contract, well deserved. And he's going to be a big part player for Leicester, but needs to brush up his celebrations.
Well, attention for Hamza though has turned to the FA Cup game with Wigan at the weekend. He says there's a huge amount of hunger in the Leicester City squad to win trophies.
I think these cup games are so important to us. I think the gaffer highlighted and the players did that we want to be successful, and being successful means winning trophies. So games like Saturday and the Carabao Cup are really important to us, and we take them really seriously. So like you say, even just winning them games, building momentum in the league and carrying it through to the cup and then back to the league is really important. So hopefully we'll get a really good result on Saturday.
Hamza Chowdhury there speaking to LCFC TV. Gerry, how important is Saturday, do you think? Because obviously last season in the third round there was that huge disappointment away at Newport County. Leicester have obviously never won the FA Cup, so Hamza says there's a huge amount of hunger. Yes, they may be in the Carabao Cup semi-finals.
Yeah.
They want to also progress in the FA Cup as well.
Yeah, well, it speaks for itself, really. It's the FA Cup. And I suppose the biggest sort of problem that Leicester have, if you're going on the form of both clubs, is complacency. And Brendan's come out at the beginning of the season, said he wants to do well in the cups. He's done well in one cup. He's got himself into a semi-final. He's got a good draw. I say all you can ever hope for in the FA Cup or any cup competition for that matter is you get a home draw. So they've got the home draw. It's against a struggling Championship side. Albeit the recent form's quite good, but you've got to be going into that game, fairly confident you can progress, and also it's one for the fans, because the fans of most clubs are begging and crying out for a trip to Wembley. So it's important that cup competitions. I'm not saying the central focus is around the fans or anything like that. Obviously, it's great for everyone involved, but the fans have that dream of getting to Wembley yet again, and that's a strong dream at the minute. That's a dream that could very well become reality. But you've got to give yourself the best opportunity. So you've got to do well in whatever cup competition comes your way.
They won't underestimate Wigan at all, will they, Matt? Yes, they may be in the bottom three of the Championship. They've only lost one of the last 6, though. And under Paul Cook, they've done some giant killings in the FA Cup in recent seasons. Man City is the big one that springs to mind, the season that everyone thought they could do the quadruple, and Wigan knocked them out of the FA Cup.
Well, there you go, yeah. You just mentioned a few examples there that will give Leicester good reason not to be complacent. Not that I suspect for 1 minute they will, because they haven't been earlier in the season. Whenever they featured against lower league opposition in the Carabao Cup, they've been thoroughly professional, and just their performance, they've been dismissive of the opposition, but only on the pitch because of how well they've played. Not in the build-up. Their preparation will be meticulous as always, I'm sure. The details will be put across to them. Who knows what the line-up's going to be? The way Brendan Rodgers is tinkering around at the moment, but you would bet your bottom dollar that he gets it spot on again, wouldn't you? And you've got to fancy Leicester strongly, haven't you? All things considered. It'd be lovely to keep the ball rolling, wouldn't it? In all competitions, on all fronts.
And a first home draw in the Cup as well this season, which is very nice. You can listen to that full game with Wigan Athletic tomorrow, of course, on LCFC Radio. It's a 5:31 kickoff. We'll be on air from 2:30. Before that, though, and this evening, the under-23s are in action. You can watch them, of course, live and free on LCFC TV. Coverage starts at 6:45 there. And then extra time on Monday evening to assess the Wigan game in the FA Cup, and we'll also look ahead to the first leg of the semi-final with Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup as well. So very, very busy week coming up for Leicester City. I'll only ask you for one prediction though, and that's the Wigan one, please, before we go.
Wigan first. Let's go. Right. Last time I got ahead of myself, came unstuck against Norwich, didn't we? So steady 2-0.
I'll go 3-1 Leicester City.
3-1, so hopefully through to the 4th round then of the FA Cup. A reminder, you can listen then tomorrow at King Power Stadium. Our coverage starts at 2:30. Thank you though for watching Matchday -2 here on LCFC TV.